Incremental readings. That is the ninth section of the Pleasurable guide to SuperMemo, the Fluency cycle, and it's the learning flow. We're now getting closer to incremental reading. The learning flow, we will see what it means to learn. There are many buttons like you see here. What does mean start learning in SuperMemo? We will see the learning stages, how you can change the stage, what happens when you have nothing more to learn, which will happen only at the first day or a few days at the beginning. We will see the repetition sorting criteria with some details on the interface about topics and items, Then the graphs. On the sorting criteria, you also can see graphs. You will be able to interpret those graphs, the Autosort Repetitions as well, and then just a few high yield scenarios that, hey, I always get the same items over and over, or I have nothing more to learn, or the collection says past midnight shift, what does mean, and so on. Something that you will experience as day 1 or day 2 user. We will cover just this, the very bare bones of the flow. There's more in this section that we will cover on the mastery, but again, diminishing returns. That's more than enough for now. Let's start the section then. So what it means to learn in SuperMemo. Obviously, SuperMemo, it's a learning app, right? It's not a knowledge management app, it's a learning app, okay. But the learn in SuperMemo is about the flow. This flow. You have the learn. This button says start learning or Control L. So in other words, learn in SuperMemo means to start the learning stages. We have the outstanding material, what is scheduled for today, what is new material, we will see what it means, and the final reel. So to click on learn will be to start the outstanding or any of those 3 stages. Could be the case that you go strictly to the second or even to the third directly. So to learn in SuperMemo means to start the learning process in any stage, depending on what's in your collection. As easy as that. So click on learn now. What I'm seeing this flashcard, because it's the first in the first I have outstanding queue, is not empty, and on that outstanding queue, the first element is this one. Then I see the answer, I read the recall, and now I see next repetition. I go to the next in the outstanding. As easy as that. We will see the entire flow with diagrams and so on. It will be a lot easier to get. Here in this video, the point is just to get the meaning of learn, because learn is way too open. It can be anything, right? We are going to focus on the learning phases in SuperMemo. So you know that every time you click on learn, Control L, space, or enter, you just do the learning flow. But there's more than one. Well, there are different phases. So now if I click on learn, I will go through my outstanding queue. Is the default one. If in the toolbar we go to learn stages, we have 3. The first, by the way, is always the same order. First, outstanding material. What is scheduled for today in your outstanding queue? Once you're done, you will go directly, click on learning, you will shift to the second stage. SuperMemo will not tell you that, necessarily. Then the new material stage is just the pending queue. And you will visit this only first if you have pending elements and if there are no outstanding elements. You have emptied the outstanding queue. And third, once the outstanding queue and the pending queue are empty, SuperMemo will shift to the third and final stage, which is the final reel. In this case, it's gray because it's empty. Like any other one can be empty, it will be grayed out. But the final reel is optional, meaning it can be disabled in the settings. So at the end of the day, I could decide to only have 2 stages, outstanding material and new material. And if you are a modern user of SuperMemo, the new material is not going to be used unless you repurpose the pending queue. That means that 99 of the users will never switch stages and only be on the outstanding material. As easy as that. This is because SuperMemo is a very old software, 3 decades, and contains the old architecture, but now with most of the decisions even predate incremental ring. That's why sometimes why it's this there, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, it's because it predates incremental ring. So in that case, if you're in the Fluency track, you could say, I don't care about that. I will just do the outstanding and that's it. And if I ever use the pending queue, it will be for repurposing the queue. For some flow with books that you need to split because of performance, they are too slow, but you want to keep the sequence, stuff like that. Or because you imported from Anki, it's new material, and you don't want everything memorized in one go. Other than that, doesn't make sense. This is the introduction of the learning stages. So we have seen the learning stages. Then we have said that SuperMemo shifts this automatically. Once you have nothing more to learn, you go to new material until you run out of that. But that means that, hey, I still have a few thousand elements in my outstanding, but I can bypass that and go straight to the second stage if I want to. So now I'm going to my pending queue, even if I didn't finished my outstanding. And the opposite is true. Let's say that after a few repetitions, low point in high school, oh wow, I'm done, I'm bored, whatever. I can go back, learn in the toolbar, stages, and outstanding. And I continue what was outstanding. And if I ever use a final drill, I could be able to do it. Okay. Now it's kind of done, now it's disabled, but I will just get there and do the final drill. That means that, hey, I had 8,000 elements outstanding today, items. I do, let's say, 100, but instead of continuing the outstanding material, I'm continuing because I have a lot of more, I want to go to the final drill and review those that I filled today. It's a flow. There are many combinations you can do. But in this video, it's just how do you explicitly change the stage. And if you want to keep binding, remember, if it's the main menu, it will be the Alt, now the L, because it's underlined, now the S, 1 for outstanding, 2 for new material, and 3 for final drill. First to second for the stage is super easy. So I do 2. It doesn't work. Ah yeah, because it's not the number 2, it's the N. Look at what is underlined. Here you go, and I go to the same place. You're going to focus on the nothing more to learn dialog that happens in SuperMemo. I'm using a dummy collection, so it's easier to illustrate this case, because once you have a good collection, you're not going to see this often. So okay, do you see now I have 9 outstanding topics? I go through them all, 2, 1, next repetition, it's empty, there's no text, next, now it says nothing more to learn. Because now my outstanding is empty, 0 plus 0. If I go to the stages, everything is grayed out. Then it will go to the new material, but I don't have anything that is pending, not final drill. So here ends the learning flow. All of the stages are empty. Now for the sake of the example, I will just make this dismissed. Forget. So now I have pending queue. So now what happens? is that I have the stage of new material. Now, let me add this very same one in the outstanding queue. Okay. Now you see I have one element in the outstanding queue. Therefore, what I'm going to do is stages outstanding material. And do you see that now I have this? What is all of this? This is the pending. Look at this. I am on the pending queue. Here you go. That is key because that means that SuperMemo is actually switching the stages without telling you implicitly. Now I know this because I see here the pending, but if I don't know, sometimes, hey, and if you don't have the pending queue, you will go straight to the final drill, which is on by default. That's why so many newbies say, hey, SuperMemo is showing me the same items over and over again. Yes, because you entered the final drill. SuperMemo didn't tell you that, and since you keep pressing space, it's ad infinitum. You need to press 4 or 5 in order to make the item outside of the final drill. So two key aspects. When everything is grayed out, you will achieve nothing more to learn. And SuperMemo will switch between stages that are available directly, without telling you. So now, I achieved nothing more to learn. Why? Because I went through all of the pending elements. Now the pending queue is empty, and everything is grayed out. And in this case, there's nothing else to learn. This will only be the case when the collection is very recent, a few days old, and that's it. Or you use Mercy or something like that, which should be once a year or less often. So it's not going to happen many days, but it's good to know the distinction early on about what's happening. It's time to introduce the sorting criteria in SuperMemo. So we already know we have the outstanding queue, and I will see the elements in the outstanding queue on the learn flow. But actually, if I view my outstanding, this is the order I will see them. Do you notice that everything is about items? And the priority is very high. Look at the color, the red. But there are some outliers that doesn't follow a very high priority. This is because of my sorting criteria. So in case you didn't know, it's not random, it's not arbitrary. You can make it arbitrary if you really want, but we will see how you can sort this, the use cases, the effects of each combination, and so on. Just to let you know that this is on the main menu, learn, sorting criteria. And we will go here. And this is a dialog. And by the way, whatever you change, you will need to click sort now. It's not automatic. If you don't click on sort now, you'll need to wait for tomorrow for the next day cutoff to happen. SuperMemo shifts the day, and I will resort as long as you have these checked, Autosort Repetitions. That's enough just for introduction. We'll see the details, the graphs, and all of that. But one thing at a time. So let's continue with the sorting criteria we have seen. Main menu, learn, sorting criteria. So there's a button here, sort now, and it's the same that you have it in the menu. Sort now. Okay. So let's see first the outstanding. Do you see the outer layer, anatomy, how does cognitive psychology, keyword method, but pay more attention to the ones that have enough priority for now. A measure of weight, time taken, key components. Okay. Then if now I sort according to my sorting criteria, which I didn't change at all, says okay, repetitions have been sorted. Now I go into the outstanding once again. Hey, the annual reduction? Wait, Where's now all of the, oh, sorry. Okay. The outer layer, but let's look at the non-red ones. SuperMemo does two-component sleep model. A debit card is a payment card. How does the degree of centrality relate? Hey, I have gotten different results. That is a key concept. That the sorting criteria, it's a criteria that follows a pattern, as we will see now in the menu. The proportion of topics, prioritized items versus randomized, and the same for topics. So you have seen that for topics is none, but I also have no topics, it's only items. And I have some randomization for items. That makes it what's called non-deterministic. So the degree of fuzziness will be the same, I don't know, but visually I will say like 33%. That means that I'll have a third of fuzziness, but this fuzziness will be different each time I sort. That's why if I sort now, once again, I can do it on this menu, on this screen. I can do it on this dialog as well. The only difference is that if I do it here, I don't have a pop-up, a confirmation dialog, but it's the same thing. And if I go to my outstanding, once again, and I scroll to the top, what happens, Pastula, event-related potential, spirulina, tag questions, is once again something different. But do you see the pattern? That are first only items, and most of the items are high priority. The pattern is consistent, but the precise elements that have been chosen is slightly different. Awesome. This is extremely important. So in this video we covered two things at once. That the sort can be accessed from the menu or from the dialog itself, and every time you run it, you will have a slightly different results because it's non-deterministic. We will see the effects this has, and depending on the precise criteria. Let's continue the sorting criteria in SuperMemo, and let's focus first. All of these bars, there are 3, they have 100 positions. It's just a poor UI choice because first, the number is never shown, and there are way too many options, too many lines that I need to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I use my keys instead of the mouse because now I want to set 33. Oh, let me do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 33 times. It's incredibly inefficient. And if I want to do it by eye, it's not exactly right. I suggest, if you really care, auto-hotkey scripts that you can automate this, and you can have predefined configurations. But if you do it, I suggest click on the side, because if you do it, let's just do it here. I click once, it is equals to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So if I hit 133, I click 3 times out on the right or left side, the side I want to navigate. So 1, 2, and 3, and now not with the mouse but with my key, right key, 1, 2, 3. Now I know I'm in the position 33, even though nowhere says the value, and there's no way I can set it. Unlike the priority, as we will see, I can use the percentage or the precise value, right? No, I want the value to be 33, that 33. As easy as that. In the sorting criteria, you cannot do that. It's very, very poor design. But hey, what happened? I lost it. Yes, because you need to click on sort now, or as soon as you quit this dialog, it will be lost. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, now sort. I won't have a confirmation dialog in this button. Click OK, and now if we go back, stays on the same place. And what I need visually, do you see it's actually off? And I think it's, oops, sorry. It's off by, I was off by 1, because I was doing this by judging by eye. So this is a limitation. It is what it is. You have this solution to go into tens. So at worst, you will need 5 extra clicks. If it's 45, 55, and then 5 for each case. And you are not going to see later on which value it is. Auto hotkey is really recommended for that. We were not going to see it in the Fluency track. Let's continue with the sorting criteria, repetition sorting criteria of your standing queue. So there are 3 panels. Now we know the tweaks you can do in the UI. Let's focus on the first, proportion of topics. It's not that obvious, but that means that the higher it is, so the most to the left it is, the higher the proportion of topics versus non-topics. Actually, that's not the case. Strictly speaking, are non-items versus item types. So this is topics, tasks, and concepts that are memorized together. As you know, many places in SuperMemo says topics when it just means non-item element types. So if you want 50-50, take a guess, or just do 5 times. Click 5 times. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now it's 50-50. So if I sort once again, it will be for one topic, one item, because I don't have many tasks or concepts in this collection. Do you see? It's 1, 1, 1, 1. Awesome. No exception. There will be an exception once I run out. So in this case, I have 8,000 items and 19,000 topics. That means that I will run out of items first. So eventually, when I go to the position 60,000 something, oh my God, do you see? Eventually it's only topics, because I have already seen all of the items. Even though I don't care, because I'm not going to do 8,000 repetitions today, right? This is the purpose of the proportion of topics. We will later see the use cases in conjugation with the other 2. Now that we have seen the sorting criteria, there's something very common, is that I first want to see items only, and then only the topics. Because the outstanding queue, it will overgrow. There's nothing I can do to prevent that, but at least I want to prioritize the items. So I finish outstanding queue just for items, but for topics, I let them pile up. Then, if that's your case, then what you need to do is the proportion of topics needs to be at 0%. That means the proportion of topics is none, therefore you get only items. If we sort now for this, we're neglecting priority, so for now the priority is dead on, following the priority. If I see my outstanding, here you go. I will first do all of the items, and then once I'm done, I will do the reading. And the reading, let's say, the time you have left. So let's say you do 10, 50, 5, depends on the time remaining you have, right? I don't suggest this, then that's the flow, it's the use case. It's fine. So if you come from Anki, that's what you are used to. You do only flashcards, and then you may add new flashcards manually or importing. It's just this, it's just Anki, right? So no worries, have this flow, and then as you get more familiar with incremental reading, just increase just a little tiny bit of topics. So you do, I don't know, 10 items, 1 topic repetition. So you still do some reading in between, because you will get bored with just item repetitions. That's how you do it. So remember, whatever, even if you want to prioritize items at some degree, fuzziness, and so on, as we will see in other videos, regardless of that, you don't need to change it. You only need to put this at the bottom. But there's an alternative way to do it. Let's say that, I want to do it just today, because this will be every single day. Then, if you want this flow just today, not from now on, instead of changing the repetition sorting criteria, just do a subset. So we'll see this later on, the subsets, but you go to Outstanding, and now you click on this button, the purple L. And now do you see I only have 8,000? There are no topics. And now you do what's called a subset review. Clicking the blue L, or going to the menu and click on Learn, or Control L. You do a subset, and once you're done, you're done. And next day, or even later on in the same day, nothing happened. If you change the sorting criteria, then to undo, you will need to go to sorting criteria, change it back, and resort. Which is not ideal, because you know that this is very hard to do. That, it was 34, what is that? Let me reset. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I know the position exactly, right? It is more tedious to do. So remember, no worries about the subsets, because this will be introduced on its own section. Just to let you know that this is the way to go if you want this to be a constant theme, not one day off. Let's continue covering the sorting criteria, the repetition sorting criteria of the outstanding queue. Then we already have seen the proportion of topics. Gotcha. Then we have prioritization of items and topics. So this is not a proportion of anything like the first one. Is to the left as much prioritized as possible, dead on the priority queue, following the priority queue, and to the right will be an absolutely arbitrary order. And if I have it 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 33%, more or less a third, you notice that now the graph changes. We will cover the graph later on, not now. This is how I had it already. So if I cancel, I will see anyway the same result. So the proportion of topics, I will do 50-50. Okay. So the items will have some arbitrariness, some fuzziness added, a third, but the topics will be dead on priority sorted. We can actually see that now. Do you see? Still nothing crazy? Boom. One outlier. It's an item. Outlier. An item. Outlier. An item. If now I filter only topics for my convenience, do you see that the sort is by priority? Dead on priority. If now I open it again, but I filter only for items, do you see that I have outliers here and there? In this case, I have 2 consecutive outliers, just 1, 2 again, because it's a third. Sometimes it's 1, sometimes it's 2, because it's a third. It is just mathematics. Do you see? And it doesn't matter. It could be 24 or 64, because the randomness, arbitrariness, is the quantity of elements that doesn't follow it, not the degree of following it. Meaning that if I put 10%, it's not that it will just be up to 20% and a slight randomness. No. It will happen every 10 items. 1 will be a different priority, and could be any. Could be up to the lowest if you want. It just happens that in my collection I don't have many items in very low priorities. So that is an important detail. That doesn't mean that, hey, now I can guarantee I will have the lowest priority items at the very beginning. No, it will mean that it will be absolutely arbitrary. That most of the items will wouldn't follow the priority queue at all. Remember that. And for topics, it's exactly the same thing. Same story. But it's good that you can cherry pick this for topics and for items, because as we will see, there are some flows that I want to prioritize the items I follow in my outstanding, but I want some degree of fuzziness on topics. I can achieve that. Let's continue the repetition sorting criteria of the outstanding queue. Now that we know the three parameters, how to play with them, it's time to interpret the graph. Okay, let me reset this to the more or less the defaults. We have three tabs: sorting criteria, current item sorting, current topic sorting. I will start with the last one. It's easier to understand with my collection. So this is more or less the area that covers. The left could be the first repetition, and the more to the right, it will be later repetitions. In my case, it's 28,000 repetitions. It's my outstanding queue. Basically, the highest point will be the lowest priority, so the closer to 100% priority of an outstanding element. Not necessarily it's 100%, because the 100% could be not outstanding, if this makes sense. Okay. You can see more or less the pattern that I have more or less linearly growing, and then boom, all of a sudden it grows dramatically. Okay. Then if I change the proportion of topics, you realize it has no change, because this plot is plotting the topic repetitions for priority. So this will have an effect only if I change this one. Now, if I put it here and I sort once again, do you see it has been rebuilt, right? Okay, that's generally how it is, that on priority. Now, if I add 50-50% of randomness, which is very high already, what happened? That one is genuine when it's meant to be done according to the priority, one is completely random. So you will see that still there's some building up here. The graph is slowly getting higher, but there's a lot of noise. Look at this. Those are more or less the lowest priority topics and happen to be quite soon. Remember that this sorting is non-deterministic. If I sort now once again, it will be similar, but not exactly the same. Do you see? Now I have one outlier, but the second outlier takes longer. Awesome. Now, if I only do 20% of fuzziness, you will see a little more the original graph. Exactly. There are still some outliers. If now I put a slightly more, 50%, it will become more blurry because it becomes more random. And if I put 100%, every time I will have a different plot because it's totally ignoring the priorities. So this is very, very interesting to see it visually, because you could say, yeah, 30% depends. Because let's say that I have 1,000 outstanding topics, but are from very condensed on the same region. I will know that, especially when I put prioritized to 100. Let's say that what I have here, this spike, happens in the 50%. I have a peak. Or I have nothing outstanding on the 20%. So I could use this as some criteria to judge what degree I want of randomness. And visually assess that, in my case, 20 will be enough. But hey, I don't get anything random until here. That already are quite a lot of repetitions. I will not achieve that, because I have thousands. Let me add more. So in my case, it's not enough for my intention. That I want some more. That's enough. Then I can actually check it for real in the outstanding. And it's, hey, I need to do 30 repetitions for the first is off. 100. It's still too low. So in the graph, it was okay. But since I have 38,000, yeah, this is relative to the thousands. So let me actually double that, more or less. Now it's about 50%, and I will guarantee that now happens at the 10, 16, okay, that's what I wanted. I follow my priority queue, kind of, with some randomness. Something that it's prone to serendipity, or something that is dead on the oblivion and can be rediscovered, or something that is old and I didn't set a genuine priority, stuff like that. That's all you need to know for now about the current topic sorting. And it's current because it's the one that is when you click sort. Next time you do it, or SuperMemo does it, it will be different. Remember that. It's non-deterministic. We have seen the sorting criteria, we have seen the plot, the graph, of the current topic sorting. Now let's see the same, but for items. That's very, very curious. If you remember, the topics cover almost the entire thing. It goes up to the 100, right? To the bottom of the priority queue. But not here. So that means that more or less, judging by eye, about 40%. Meaning, I don't have any item outstanding which priority is in the 40s. I can actually see that myself. So let's verify this. Oh, okay. It's in the 60 something. Okay, it's more than I expected, but it's still the same point. So there's a massive hole. Okay. Then what do I have in items? Let me use that on. Perhaps was this the plot? I couldn't see it. This will be the exactly. Do you see that I have some outliers at the very bottom? But most of the items are even in the 30s and 40s. Okay. I don't have anything else. It's meaning that the rest that is blank in my collection are just items that are not outstanding or topics. Awesome. Then, if I do the same as before, 1, 2, 20% of randomness, now it's in a slightly different case. First, I don't have the precise range as before, and second, I only have 8,000, unlike 19,000 overall. I have fewer. So this randomness is too tiny. I still need more. Let's put 40. And now more or less it's the same. This is super awesome because I can see and switch the tabs without losing or resetting the sorting. So now I can see, okay, that's what I wanted for topics, awesome, and what I want for items. And now I sort. Outstanding is, okay, 3 at the same time. Okay, 3 at the same time. Perhaps it's too much. So I will like something more granular. But I don't know what is happening. It's because those off, it's an item. Then it's a topic, and it's an item once again. So actually it only happens once. This, let me make it more clear. This randomness that makes appear some outlier happens to be that since I have more or less 50-50, then changes to topics and happens to be an outlier. If now I put this, just a few, like this, and topics that are not important, I will put something else, something very low as well. Now let's see what happens. Well, I still get 2, but not 3 at once. Do you see? By average will be the same case. And the topics are dead on priority. That's why it's so low. Well, so high. The number is low. Hope this makes sense. And one final detail. I have the visual representation. If I do 100% random, so you can see it, what's going to happen is that it's totally random, but within the scope. So it doesn't go further. Why? because it's just changing the order. So if I have no item of 80 or 90% priority, it cannot be there because it's just sorting. It's not modifying any priority. It's only modifying how it will be presented. That's why it can change the order. That's why we have so many outliers. But the scope will be until here, not further. Remember that. Then, is this good? Is this bad? It's just a consequence of how I use priorities. Because I don't set priorities beyond 50% on items anymore. I just don't create them to begin with. We have seen everything but this graph. Sorting criteria tab. We have the item sorting and the topic sorting. But what is this sorting criteria? It says probability of an item being placed at the top of the standing queue within 0 and maximum. This is not representing the queue. This is representing the queue. That you have a topic of this priority, the more to the left, the soonest, the more high, earlier positions in the queue. And to the right, the bottom of the queue. Meaning that I have here some kind of low priorities in the 40s or 50s, and then very high, that is close to the 0%. 40, 0, 30 something, 0 point something, boom, 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 boom. Because I have a lot of, some degree of randomness, right? But here is, wait, why is at the top? Because it's 100% random. That means that arbitrarily, any single item in my outstanding queue has the capacity, the same probability, to be placed at the top, the first one. So now, do you see it's 0.0? It's very high, but then it's 7, 6, 19, 30. If I sort once again, and I see the outstanding queue, now look at that, it's 38, another 38. The first one is still the same, I think, or very low, very close, right? That means that even this 48% or this 54, which will be one of the lowest, has the capacity to be the first one, if this makes sense. Okay. Then, if we reduce this, do you see that most of the elements have the capacity, let's say, 1 sec, 90%, okay. So you have a lot of elements, items, that have the same probability of being the first one, and then asymptotically, this becomes not the case. Why? Because those will be very low priority items, which they will keep true to their sort. They are not affected by the randomness. If now I put 20, 30, 40, and 50, more or less is 50% like here. Do you see that here some pixel is already down? Asymptotically, they have a slight lower probability, and then it decreases dramatically. This is, in mathematics, this is called asymptotic. Meaning that it's 50%, means that one item in the 51 priority range still has a marginal chance not to be picked. Has a marginal chance not to be picked. It's very unlikely, but it still could happen, because the randomness will have been exhausted already. Therefore, we will start going through the order. Well, strictly speaking, we already start from the very beginning. So it's more clear. Do you see? From the very beginning, you have random order. But what's going to happen? If I set 50, that means if I have, in my case, well, to do 7,000 elements, right? But only items. Let me filter. Only items. 8,500. Meaning that 4,275, more or less, that are random, they have already used the random arbitrary order. Meaning that what continues is every time less and less random, if this makes sense. Let me go again. It's harder to see, I think, but I think you get it, you will get it. Keep in mind this is not the same as here. It's not representing the position in the queue. But those outliers, the more outliers there are here already, the less likely there will be outliers later on. In order to guarantee outliers later on, I will have to have a higher randomness. Let's put it lower. You see now it's less likely to have outliers. There are still 2 here, right? Okay, and 1 here, but look, almost no outliers in a good chunk, right? So we have this, only for items, by the way. I used items. I use topics because the graph is a lot prettier than my items. So that means that if I follow 100% priority, what happens here? There's only one item that has the capacity, the one probability of being placed at the top, the very first one. In this case, it's non-deterministic because I don't have any degree of fuzziness. If I do this, let me put everything here, and I sort, then this is dead on priority queue, how it is sorted by priority. Meaning that every time I go here, it will be, it scrolls down, sorry, where it was. It will be like this every single time. If now I resort, once again, I will have that on the same, and we can actually verify that. It's exactly the same. That's why you only see 1 pixel, and it's dead to the bottom already. And as you go through, you can see how this shapes to an asymptotic graph. And then more pronounced asymptotic more to the end. It's just this. Then, this will make a lot more difference if your collection is either very small or very recent. That there's almost no history. It's been a few weeks. Then this will make a lot more dramatic changes, especially if you don't care about priorities yet. Perhaps you have a hole that, I don't know, 50%, first the ratio, that 95% of your collection are topics. You almost have no items because you haven't had time still to go through your repetitions, make extracts, and then the close relations. Right? That's why perhaps the proportion of topics won't have much effect. And then the probability of items here depends a lot because let's say that your first element, your first item, is 0.0%, 0.1%, 2%, 10, 27, and that's it, right? Yeah. A very simplistic example, but doesn't make much sense. I can actually show that to you with a dummy collection. Now I go to my sorting criteria. This will be always the same. Always the same. But if I go here, look at this. Sorry, let me put zero fuzziness. Do you see? I only have 23. And they're quite well distributed. Up to the, I don't know, a third of the collection. So it's not that a big deal. Could be the case that I only have the top 5%, and 95 are only topics. So what I do here, it won't change much. I can do it. Oh yeah. Do you see? I actually added some fuzziness, but it's not a big deal. And the sorting criteria here, it will always be displayed the same. If I go to the 50, perhaps it will be slightly before or after, but it will always be the same pattern. Or the asymptotic here is not as big as my collection, I think. It falls slightly lower. Okay. And here more or less would be, it's linear, if that's something you want. So we have covered everything already. The presets and all of the specifics will be covered on the mastery track only. Remember that. So we have been playing with the sorting criteria. The repetitions sorting criteria. So we had a button that we can do and sort now every time we want, right? But there's this setting to Autosort Repetitions. Do you see that check mark? That means that every time SuperMemo, when it starts a new day, you open it for the first time each day, it will execute, among other things, the autosort. If you check that off, automatic sorting of repetitions has been turned off. Now I can know that it's off because there's no check mark. I can also know that because in the stats window, in the protection, the periodic protection says autosort is off. Therefore, you cannot protect anything. There's no periodic protection. You cannot guarantee any protection because it's 100% arbitrary. Now, if I go to outstanding, hey, is it still sorted? Yes, because I have it activated already. Meaning that now, if I close it down, and now I pretend it's the next day, okay, I shift the time, awesome. Now I open SuperMemo, it will shift the day. Do you see? I have auto postpone. Now it's executing auto postpone, among other things. Okay. Then what's going to happen? Look at those outstanding. It's a complete mess. Look at the priorities. Are super low. Are actually the lowest I have. 60s is the lowest priority I have in my collection for items. Basically, I don't sort at all. There's literally no use case for that. I know one person who has this off, and it's a person that even if he used SuperMemo for more than a decade, he neglects priorities because he doesn't do incremental reading. He uses SuperMemo as a toolkit for a space repetition, but completely neglects incremental reading. If you do incremental reading, there's no excuse, there's no flow possible to have the autosort off. So always have it at all times activated. So now you know, if you ever happen that you misclick or whatever, and you see said that in the protection, hey, now I see the numbers, or the percentage, if you use SuperMemo 18 or older, you're fine. If you see, hey, protection is off, activate it. No brainer. There's no solution. I'm sorry, here there's no excuse. I don't even know why there's still such a thing that you can disable it. It will have the same effect, more or less, than going to the sorting criteria and put everything random, but even something greater, that the proportion of topics or items is also random. In this case, it's not random. You decide the proportion, 50-50, only items, only topics. You cannot make it random. So actually, you cannot replicate this with the sorting criteria. It's even worse than fully randomness. So point of the video, don't mess with this. Don't disable it. I'm going to show you something you might have experienced as a newbie in SuperMemo. That, hey bro, SuperMemo is showing me the same items over and over. So in this collection, Presidents of the US, I have 24 outstanding items. Who was the second president? Pam pam pam, gotcha. So I will just pretend I know that. Pam pam pam. Okay. And this one, oops, I failed. Do you see in the status bar, the progress bar of the status bar, I have some red and some blue. Okay. Okay, I'm done. But wait, if I press next rep, it's still showing me stuff. Hey bro, I finished already. What happened already that we have seen? That SuperMemo have shifted the learning stage. I can know that also by the stats window. Now I'm in the final drill. I didn't decide that, but it's because I have the pending elements. The outstanding queue now is empty. And I know that because it's 0 items, 0 topics, and 15 what? 15 elements in the final drill. Then I'm seeing this, or again. Now I will put this 4, so it goes outside. To make my point, do you see now the status gets higher? 60 something. Okay, I will leave this one, that is multiple choice. because I'm not paying attention to the questions. Okay, I only have 3 items left in the final reel. But if I keep pressing escape, when was Washington Bush born? 22. Ticket did John Adams run in that year? Hey, I already got that. And Jim Carter? Hey, I already got that. George Washington Bush born? Hey, what's happening? I'm on a dead cycle, right? SuperMemo is showing the items over and over again. That's because I am first on the final reel, and second, I don't rate those items 4 or 5. Therefore, they keep being on the final reel. Why? Because SuperMemo shifts automatically the loading stage because there were no outstanding elements. Therefore, the outstanding queue was empty. The pending queue was already empty to begin with. So you bypass the new material stage and you go directly to the final reel without prompting you that. So now you know, and okay, now that I know, how do I stop ESD? Press escape once or twice. It doesn't work. Why? Because in case you manually navigated to the final reel, when pressing escape, then SuperMemo will prompt you, hey, do you want to skip it? Now SuperMemo doesn't offer this option. Why? Because there's no alternative. There's nothing else we can do. There's nothing else we can do here. What new material? I can force it. Okay. Now do you see I'm depending? Okay. Escape. I'm again on the final reel. So now I press 5 and 5 once again. Hey, what happened here? It happened the other way around. I have finished the final reel. It become empty. I know that because now I have 0 plus 0. The third count is not even shown. There's no final reel queue. And here it will be grayed out in the stages. Exactly, it's grayed out. It does the other way around. So it was on the third stage. Oh shoot, the third stage is now empty because the final reel can be finished if you put 4 or 5. You rate everything 4 or 5. Then it goes to whatever it's there. Hey, the pending queue is not empty. So SuperMemo will shift automatically to the pending queue without telling you that. And if the pending queue was empty, it will go to the outstanding once again. And only on the case that the 3 were empty, as we have seen in the video before, it will show to you there's nothing else to learn. So now you know why you experience that. It makes sense. That's why if you use SuperMemo on your own, it's what is this bullshit? What is this crap of software? I don't get it. Versus if you follow this course, makes sense. Totally makes sense. Those stages, I fully get it. Everything is coherent. Because SuperMemo does a lot of things that it doesn't tell you. It's not actively making you aware of. That's why it's superly suggested to have the review stat in the statistics window to know in which queue you're working with. Let's review what's the repetition cycle. Instead of using SuperMemo, let's use this diagram. It will be better. So what I do at the beginning, it's no secret. Click on learn, right? What do I go? Oh, an item shows up. Now I'm in where? I'm in question time of that item. Awesome. Then I click show answer is the button. So the learn button disappears. Not disappears. It changes to show answer. And this is what I need to do in order to go to the answer time. When I have the answer time, that I will see the answer of the flashcard, usually an extra component, not limited to that, then I have to read my recall. It can be like this or with emoji. By default, it's emoji. Once I do that, I will go after grading time. And I will have this next repetition. It doesn't say learn anymore. The next repetition will show up the next element. In the what? In the outstanding queue. According to what? according to the sorting criteria. And what I will go, for the sake of the example, let's pretend it's a topic. So I have what will be could be understood as question time. Topics doesn't have answer or memorized concepts or tasks. Only items have answer time and grading. So that's about it. That's why in topics, one is presented, you edit, you extract, you make a close solution, whatever, and when you click next repetition, it goes to the next one already. There are no more times. And finally, eventually, you will run out of material because you will have done all of the outstanding material. And you will reach this, nothing more to learn. And this will finish the flow, the learning flow. This is very simplified. Obviously, you're not going to have just 2 elements. Perhaps you have 100, depends if you use Autosort and so on. And usually, you will reach a point that you will never finish the outstanding queue. But that is more or less the flow, the learn flow, when you click on learn. So now we know that if you smash this button, or you press space or enter, this is actually what SuperMemo is doing, even though all of this flow can be achieved with pressing one key. Hope that's been useful, more or less to have the big picture once again, what we have seen by pieces. So now we're going to cover something very specific in a SuperMemo collection that after midnight or your day cut off, SuperMemo will say, hey, it's night. So now this time it's about 6 p.m. Okay. Therefore, I still have time. In my toolkit options, I have the day cut off at just midnight. Okay. Then I will just cheat my way and I will modify the time and I will say that this now it's the next day. So it will be July 1st. And it's already after midnight. Change it. Okay. Do you see? This collection is past the midnight shift, not necessarily midnight. It could be 4 a.m., 10 a.m., the number you set in the toolkit options. It tells you the name of the collection because you can have multiple collections opened at the same time, but their threshold could be different because it's a collection setting. So this could be midnight, the other one could be 4 a.m. And then it says, please close to ensure learning data integrity. Of course, you can continue. If you do that, as I just did, among other things here, you will have this plus. This is because SuperMemo distinguishes that A, this was actually done on July 1st, but since you didn't sleep yet, for you, it was still the same day. Because yeah, I just wake up, I kept using SuperMemo, it just happened that the day has changed, but for me it's the same day. That's why you can do this at 4 a.m. or something that you can guarantee you will be sleeping. So SuperMemo takes into account that, hey, it's this day, but I consider, qualitatively, for you it's the same day. It's June 30, not July 1st. There are other stuff that then what we will see, the repetition if it goes today or yesterday because it hasn't shifted today. But that's a stuff we didn't cover before. And the point of this video is not to nitpick the details, as you will see later on the mastery track in other sections, not here. This is just to make sense. Okay, now I get the prompt, what it means, and the decision. Meaning that if you really wake up, so for you it's the next day, what you will do is close down SuperMemo and open it again, so you force the new day cutoff. In this case now, it's triggering the auto postpone. And among other things, for instance, the auto sort of the outstanding queue. So there are quite a lot of things that are done when the news day starts. in SuperMemo. But this only triggers at the start. SuperMemo doesn't see, hey, it's time, but I cannot trigger this. There's no button to trigger that. Therefore, you need to quit and open SuperMemo. And now I will do my reps, but because this is a different day for me. Because it was a jet lag, or I changed the time zone, and so on. It was not because of me, right? So it depends on the case. No, I'm staying longer than usual. It's over midnight, but it's the same day for me. I will keep using SuperMemo. I don't know, I landed in the other side of the Earth, the planet, and I had a major change in the time zone. I will act consequently, right? So now you know. And remember, this is per collection. If you have multiple collections opened, SuperMemo will ask you for each one of those. And it will have a slight consequence on the scheduling in space repetition. But we will see this when we go and cover space repetition, not now. And only on the mastery track, by the way. See you incrementally.